Alex out of the way first.
Fair enough. Well, similar to Allison, I have encountered real life where I didn't have any time to play video games, or if I did have time, I was too tired because
God.
working 11-hour days will kind of wear you out.
We'll take a nap and then fire the missiles.
Exactly, and also watch Swifty 5, etc. But I think those were around the same time and the same people, weren't they? Anyways,
I don't know.
I actually got into some new podcasts this week. I don't know if about y'all, but I like to listen to new things.
I was like, I don't know about y'all, but I like podcasts. I'm like, yeah, we do too.
I don't know. The jury's out on that. We'll see.
I do not have the time to listen to new podcasts. I've only got time to make this podcast.
Honestly, I mean, relatable though.
Yeah, no, I listen to tons of podcasts. It's kind of my background noise, not while working, but while doing other stuff, like if I'm going out for a run or whatever, and just having a shower or whatever. So yeah, I found a couple new ones which are fun. One is a gaming one. It's by a couple of folks out of New York, and the names are August and Greg, and it's called Bread Radio. They're cool. Very similar to what we're doing in a lot of ways, just kind of talking about what they're playing, talking about news, talking about life, going off on tangents about absolutely nothing.
Dragon fucking.
So from what I've heard, there hasn't been any dragon fucking, but if we can influence them, perhaps we can bring the dragon fucking about.
That's our brand. Nobody else's.
Yeah, no. It's I just want to make sure they're not aping our style.
Yeah, we need to. You gotta pay us if you want to talk about that.
They're already getting like this free publicity here.
All right. Well, how about wyvern fucking?
I think we already talked about
I'll
this.
allow it.
Capcom, the lawsuit's already being filed because Capcom.
Fair enough.
I think there's enough. It's close enough that they owe us some money.
But yeah, I would recommend Bread Radio. They're fun. They're good. They are rad to listen to. I think they go up every Thursday, so worth a listen. And then the other one is called Do We Like, and it is hosted by a couple named Robin and Eric, and they just they just have debates. They're like, okay, here's a topic. Do we like it? Like the most recent episode from just a couple days ago, camping. Do we like camping? And it's a debate. American cheese.
No.
Yes.
Yes. What are you talking about?
No.
Yes.
What's wrong with you?
See,
Yeah.
I don't like
this is their podcast.
American cheese is perfect for grilled cheese.
Yeah, I mean it's not the best
melty.
cheese.
It's not the best cheese, but it's like
yes.
It's the best
I
melty.
don't even like grilled cheese that much.
What?
Well, okay. If you don't food, then you're not going to like any food.
No, because a grilled cheese it's the same thing as with a pizza, where a pizza with only sauce and cheese, that's a waste of my time. What are you even bringing to me?
No, but
it's not a meal.
Andre,
a grilled cheese is the same thing.
Slurry if you want. I keep
no, that's the problem.
Like
I don't want nutrient
Vitamin
slurry.
Clear you don't like food, so
no, that's I like food too much, and I refuse to settle for something as simple as bread, sauce, and cheese.
I think your palate isn't refined enough to taste the intricate layers
Load
of
me up,
flavor.
baby. Just give me 100 things all in one bite, and let me just like bask in the complexities.
Yeah, so if you like these kinds of debates, you should check out Do We Like. It's great.
I don't actually. They give me a lot of anxiety. So.
No, they're
but I'm sure that they do a really good job with them.
Yeah, it's really well intentioned. It's fun. There's they also have work Christmas parties, Seinfeld, avocados,
Work
driving.
Christmas parties are some bullshit.
I like participating in those kinds of debates.
Underwear.
So.
And they have had a couple of awesome guests like Pat Bear and stuff like that on there. So yeah,
nice.
Also a good show. So that's Bread Radio and Do We Like. That's what I've been up to this week. I'm not been working if y'all want to talk about Kubernetes, but I don't really want to talk
absolutely
about
not.
I'm sure Pat is super excited about web development right now.
Absolutely not.
Heard it here
right,
first,
I forgot
everybody.
about that. Don't worry about it. Anyways,
yeah.
I don't know. It's been a long week, y'all.
Well, speaking of development, Pat, I hear you're developing some sort of sphere.
Yeah. I checked out. So my week was, I have far too much. I've had plenty of time despite work being stressful, it's mostly been constrained to 8-hour days. So I've had plenty of time for games, and I played more Ys games, and I played some Dark Souls this week. But in terms of new stuff, I checked out this Dyson Sphere program, is what it's called. And it is a
vacuum cleaner like simulator.
Yeah, so it is a game from a 5-person team in Chongqing, China.
Cool.
And
the Hitman level?
Yeah. It's the very same. And I didn't realize that it was a Chinese game when I picked it up. But then when it launched, it was like, do you want to play in English or do you want to play with Chinese characters? And I was like, wow, those are two very specific different language options. It's, for starters, it's so cool to see a game. This is in early access. It's like $20 on Steam. So cool to see a game from a studio in a place that has kind of been sort of pigeonholed for a specific few genres of games. I feel like while clearly there's a lot of stuff, I mean, China is a huge country with a lot of people in it. It seems like the only games that end up making it over here tend to be either gachas or visual novels or in like kind of specific genres. And this one is
the Romance of the, or whatever. Is it Romance of the Three Kingdoms? Is that? No,
I think that's a Chinese...
what's the one with the Dynasty War? Is it just it's the Dynasty Warrior stuff? What is it? I can't remember the name.
It's well, there's a strategy game.
What is the story?
Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, no, because
like,
there's so much romance. Maybe that's just in Japan, but like so many Romance of the Three Kingdoms games from Chinese.
Because a lot of the ones that make it here are from Japanese studios.
Yeah, there's a lot of Chinese games.
So I guess my point is certainly not that I don't think that there isn't a wide diversity of kind of games being developed, but you just don't tend to see that range. So it's cool that this game is so different from what I'm used to seeing from those kind of studios, and it seems really cool. So if you're not familiar with the concept of a Dyson Sphere is essentially like a series of rings or a encompassing sphere or whatever built around a star, with the notion that at a certain point a civilization, if it is going to continue, has to harness the full power of its star to continue to grow, because it outstrips the energy that's available on planets. So that's kind of your goal. And the lore in this game is so weird. It's like if I don't want to say that because I'll explain it. And if you've played another game, then you'll go, oh, weird. So the idea is human beings figured out that if they digitize their consciousness, then they can live as long as they want and live happier lives, because they don't require the same diversity of resources to exist as you do in like a flesh body, because all you need is the power to keep whatever servers are hosting your consciousness alive. So humanity at large moves themselves to living in the matrix, basically, because it's sustainable. But in order to power it, they have to figure out how to make Dyson spheres. So a very select few people are sent out into space as engineers to like create this power network to power the center brain AI that like kind of keeps the matrix afloat. But it's very optimistic. It's not like dystopic at all. The music is very pleasant, and the tone of the writing of the like lore entries is really like, yeah, this is what is better for the universe and for people. Once we reached this point, it just made sense. And once people got over the idea of like mortality and fleshy bodies, it was like it transcending like this made logical and emotional sense over time. So it's really cool how hopeful and optimistic it is about that stuff. And then what the game actually is a sort of Factorio or Satisfactory style thing where you're building factories. You're building like networks that are trying to mine and produce materials that then get put into other materials, and you're spending these materials to work down a tech tree. And there's sort of a main path, and when you finish the main path, you finish a playthrough. And it has like randomized seating, so the idea is you play it multiple times and figure out how to play through it with the different seeds or different environments you get. And as part of that, if you've seen Factorio before, it starts off small with like, oh, I'm building this mining device that mines this ore, and then I'm going to connect it with conveyor belts to an assembler or to a smelter that smelts the ore into ingots, and then I'm going to connect that to maybe a warehouse, and then I'm going to connect a warehouse to an assembler. There's like maybe 3 different things feeding into this warehouse, and then it feeds out these crafting materials to an assembler that makes something, and then that goes into another warehouse. Do you had something to say, Andre?
I just realized I played this at Bit Summit.
Oh yeah, cool.
I didn't play for a long time, but I realized was it on like a Steam demo thing? Maybe I don't know. This is familiar, and I played a little bit of it.
You're running this little mech around on the surface of the planet, setting up these networks. But where it starts to get wild and different from something like Factorio is you are existing in this big simulated solar system at first, but ostensibly like chunk of the galaxy, because when you start off, it's like, oh, how many stars do you want? So theoretically, you can spread out across your solar system and then eventually the whole chunk of the galaxy. And you can keep playing after you finish the like ultimate goal. So if you want to, you can just keep playing the same universe. And so it almost has a like Kerbal Space Program or No Man's Sky sense to it, where the actions of what you're doing is completely different. But at a certain point, I think the idea, I haven't played far enough in to see this, I think the eventual idea, and it's again in early access, so I don't know how much of this is in the game or how much is planned, but you might need a gas that you can only get from a gas giant. So you have to figure out how to leave your planet and go to a gas giant and set up harvesting of this gas giant, and then figure out how to build a logistics network that combines resources from multiple planets on one place. But it also means that there's things like, I saw one review that was like saying it got dark for a really long time, way longer than I thought it should have, and I didn't understand what was going on. And then I realized that the like blue thing that was looming on the horizon was actually the planet that the moon I was on was orbiting, and it made it dark for a long time because I was in an eclipse and on the far side of the planet and not getting any sunlight. So that just has that kind of sense of scale and universe simulation mechanics that you get from something like a Kerbal or a No Man's Sky or whatever. No Man's Sky actually doesn't really do quite the same degree of simulation, but gives you that scale while also being a game about building factories. So the places they can go with it is pretty staggering if they choose to make it super complex, because you could make something like this extraordinarily complex.
It already looks complex.
If you've played Satisfactory or Factorio before, it's very easy to jump into, and they have a really good tutorial too already built into the game.
I've never touched any of those games.
Is it purely single player? Because I know that with Factorio that you can get multiplayer going.
Yeah, it is single player, which I kind of like, because some friends and I want to play a Satisfactory save together just to see how that goes. But my thinking is Satisfactory, at least since it almost has a Minecraft feel to it, that seems like it would work well. This kind of game, it's more of a top-down sort of isometric-y thing. You can use WASD to walk around your little mech, or you can click. Like, you definitely have a representation in the world, but would be a lot, I think, to try to get multiple people to coordinate with this game, because the building is so fast. The thing about Satisfactory is when you're like, okay, I'm going to set up a mining rig and a smelter and a factory, that takes like half hour, 45 minutes. Like that's going to take a chunk of time. So you can tell your friends like, hey, I'm going to start working on building a production line to create these things. And then you got your like couple hour play session probably all lined up. This game, it moves really fast if you know what you're doing. So I would think coordinating multiple people could be really challenging, and not necessarily challenging in a fun way. But yeah, and again, I want to say too, I was really surprised. If you've never played one of these games, I'm sure Factorio has a really good tutorial at this point because it's been in development for so long. But I was very impressed with how good the tutorial is for this one. It's not perfectly localized, but it's not like hard to follow either, and it's like voice acted and stuff. There's like a pretty good voice actor that's reading off the tutorial messages to you, and it goes through very basics of how the game works and everything. So it seems really polished for being a 0.6 release. And I definitely recommend it. If you've played these games before and want a new one, I'd recommend it. And even if the idea of the like scale of the universe is kind of tantalizing and you go in understanding this is like a logistics game, I think you might like it too.
Sick.
All right. Well, that's Dyson Sphere
Program. It's a funny name.
Dyson Sphere Program.
When I first thought, I was like, is this some kind of utility software?
Yeah, that's well. And then you played another game that I also played.
Yeah. Well, if you can call what you did playing it, rather than just wrestling with it to get it to run.
I am further than you are.
I'm just you seem like it was very frustrating.
It has been
I'm not
frustrating.
Knocking your experience.
The Medium, which is the only Xbox Series X Series 1 exclusive plus PC, or not even Series 1, just Series 1, Series X, 1. Series S. The Xbox, it's on the X and S series of consoles, not on the Xbox One.
If you're gonna play it on an Xbox One X.
Maybe, but it's not on Game Pass for those. It shows up, but you can't download it.
Don't think so. I just Googled it, and it looks like it's only Series X, S, and then also PC.
So they've already broken the thing that they said they were going to do.
Well, no, because it's not an Xbox. It's not a Microsoft
developed.
It's just it was one of their all the games we're showing are coming to Game Pass. Yeah, no, that whole thing is
buy a PC. Don't fuck with.
They don't have any games to put out, so they're. But anyway, this is first of all, the performance on this game for me with a 3070, like a brand new video card from last year, is like sub 60 with ray tracing off. It's not like it looks incredible. It runs worse than Cyberpunk did. With like ray tracing on, like even like max ray tracing and all that stuff, it runs worse than that, which is very strange. And on Xbox, on the Series X, it runs at like 900p, and then gets down lower when it gets into like the game's main gimmick, which is it gives you like a split screen view and you've got like two worlds going on. It gets down to like
I have a suspicion as to what the issue is with the 3000 series cards, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not a I wonder if, because it doesn't give you very many quality settings to mess with. It's pretty limited, at least on top. I don't know if there's settings.
If you go into the advanced, there's more.
Have you messed with those?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then never mind. My theory is
wrong. I was lot thinking of it did nothing.
I was thinking maybe if it looks at the fact that you have a 3000 series card, it auto sets some stuff, and it's stuff that is way too much. Because on the flip side, I've been playing with a 2070 Super, and it's been great. I have ray tracing on. It's been holding at 55 to 60 FPS. When it first does the split to show the second environment or whatever, it'll hitch for like a second maybe, but I think that's more of a hard drive thing than it is a card thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's weird that it doesn't run well on the 3000s because it's great on mine. And my processor's old, so I don't think it's that you're bottlenecked there.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm well above the recommended specs. And like my processor is a year and a half old. My GPU is like not even 6 months old, like 3 months old. Like, what's going on here? But
aside from the technical issues,
the Medium is a new Blooper Team, not Blooper Team game, which they're known for their horror games, right?
Yep, Layers of Fear, and they made that Blair Witch game that was kind of last year, but the Layers of Fear is pretty widely regarded as one of the better modern horror games.
And this is another horror game set in Poland in the 1999. It's a millennium coming up fast.
President George Clinton.
Is it? Did they say George?
Yeah, there's a newspaper in the opening
Clinton?
apartment that says President George Clinton
that,
talking about how like
Wait,
the Berlin Wall fell 10 years ago or whatever.
Oh my God.
George Clinton?
Yeah.
Seriously?
That would be a very different world.
Yes, it
George
would. It'd be
Clinton
way funkier.
ran.
Just get
Yeah.
like parliament.
Let's be honest, it'd be way
the US
better.
would be a parliament.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
would be a funkadelic parliament.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I read that newspaper. It didn't register with me.
Yeah,
what
I
you're
thought that
saying.
was very funny. It made sense. I was like, wow, that's a good play. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
you're playing as this medium, right? Like she's spirit sensitive.
and the way that manifests is sometimes the spirits get real emotive or something, and that kind of pulls her into like another like plane where like the spirits exist, but she's also like she's simultaneously existing in like in reality, or like the real world, and then this like spiritual world, and like they kind of map up, but then the spiritual world is weird and spooky.
Yes,
it kind of gets like, it's not Silent Hill ish because it's much more like otherworldly, like there's like weird fungus and stuff, but the way that Silent Hill maps onto like the real world when you go into like the demon areas,
and I think tonally there are moments that felt like really, like I think Silent Hill was probably a pretty strong inspiration for this game, even though I wouldn't say it's like super similar narratively or visually. There's definitely like some spots where you're climbing through kind of debris filled areas in the fog, she also gets like the ability to see echoes of things in the quote real world. So sometimes that's like you'll look at a telephone and you'll rotate the phone around to find where the echo is, just like the classic Lord of the Rings Shadow of Mordor. If anyone has played Shadow of Mordor, it's almost identical to that, where you're rotating an object to find the like point where it triggers the audio diary basically. But that stuff is cool and pretty well done.
Yeah, this is like a kind of a throwback game in a lot of ways.
Totally, yeah.
Which also makes it weird that it's like like the performance is so bad across like platforms.
Fixed camera angles.
Yeah.
It's like nice. It's not like tank controls. Yeah, it's not tank controls, but it's fixed camera angles. And I haven't gotten into any of the action part. I mean, there's like there's a button to hold your breath and to sneak and stuff. So it must get dangerous at some point. I haven't gotten that far.
I have.
But what I've played so far, for me, I'll say for one, when it's running well and ray tracing is out and the environments actually look pretty outstanding. The character models are whatever. There's some cool art design in the sort of other world. I get the impression that they manifest the ways in which the person died on their body in the other world. Maybe that's not true, but characters will have like there's a character's like missing an arm and has like fungus growing there and stuff. Everyone kind of has like fungus growing on them, and, like in that otherly world. I'm not sure what's up with that, because isn't the first guy like he's got like a head thing, but like you see him and he doesn't have like a smashed head, but funeral
they could
you dress body when people have died usually. If there's an injury like that, they'll clean it up and use makeup and clay and stuff.
Does the soundtrack kind of sound like Incubus because there's fungus among us? Though I
How do
actually
you
have a
do it?
question. I have a question from the chat from one Brock from Damage Boost asking, "Can you pet the cat?"
No, you can feed
no,
the cat.
the cat is like it's not your cat, and so it's very like standoffish, and it's just like feed
you can
me.
feed the cat, but I don't. You just get an achievement for that. I don't think it actually does anything. Maybe later it does. I don't know.
Man, when they get
I haven't met
VR
that cat
support,
again. Chase the cat around the apartment and pet it.
hell yeah.
But I like.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah, all of this is to say that the opening bits for me were, I was a little like, okay, I like visually what's happening here. The Otherworld stuff actually reminds me a lot of Remnant from the Ashes, weirdly, which is a game I obviously was a huge fan of. And the early, I think it's like just spooky enough early on where like,
Yeah, it's definitely
it didn't
not
make me
like,
not want to play. It wasn't like, oh God, I'm getting jump scared all the time, but it was, the lights go out and your character goes, oh, what's going on upstairs? And you turn around and there's a shadow on the staircase, and it's like, oh, this is spooky, but not like upsetting.
Right, so it's more unsettling style horror rather than like trying to shake you by the shoulders style.
Wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of shoulder shaking later on.
So there have been some jump scares.
Yeah.
Which like feel kind of cheap, as usual. And I don't even think they're particularly well executed. And then like you do get into like the more tense scenarios with like where it's more it's not actiony, but you're in like more danger.
Yeah.
Like you're actually in danger. It's kind of got like as far as I am, it's got kind of like the Amnesia thing where like you can't fight back.
Yeah. And you don't really have health from what I've seen either. It's more like you could take a certain number of hits and then you're.
Yeah. I mean, it's an invisible health bar. You're not like, I'm going to take my laudanum. And
you're not going to, you're not going to take sanity. You're not going to use a green herb to heal your health bar.
Well, I don't know. It's, hey, you might be taking the green herb at some point. You've seen some shit, but
can you combine the green herb with the red herb?
You are combining items.
Yes, that is a thing. There's no inventory management, really. No. It's just a list of stuff. But yeah, you do combine stuff. There's light puzzle gaming stuff. What I was going to say is early on, I thought that stuff was a little tedious. And there's like...
finding the stuff is like
sort of the premise is you start off and like your adopted father has passed away and you work at his funeral home that he runs, and so they kind of introduce some of the theme and mechanics by having you kind of run around this small area and complete these basic little tasks. You kind of meet his spirit with this split screen world thing, and it's pretty cool when that happens, I think. And then you get a phone call from this guy that's like, I know what you are, I know what you can do, and come see me at this resort. And it's this like Soviet era resort where people would go to vacation. And then you're kind of exploring it. And as far as I've gotten in the front door, and like, there's things like to get in the front door, you need to find a replacement for the door handle. And to do that, you have to go to this car that's at the long end of the parking lot. None of this stuff is spoilery, by the way. You have to go to this car at the end of the parking lot, and it looks like it's just part of the environment. And the first time I ran past it, I didn't see the interact queue. So I was like, I actually ended up having to look it up because I was like, what am I supposed to do to get this door handle? Yeah. And then I went back to the car, and you're basically just like, you look in the car and then you push a latch to open the hood, and then you pull a screwdriver out of the open hood. And so some of that stuff, I was like, I don't like this adventure gamey stuff because it feels like not that interesting. However, as soon as I got inside, you have an encounter with another spirit that is not actiony at all, or not dangerous at all. And I think the character work there is so cool. And the visual design of everything that's happening, and the way that it's using this like split screen thing to sort of, you're looking at the real world half and you're looking at the spirit world half, and you're seeing the differences in the way the characters moving around. I was really sold at that point. I thought that was such a cool interaction that it really made me want to see more of what was going on. So I'm enjoying it. I will say my biggest criticism of it is they wish it had a Polish language option, because it is so very much set in Poland. It is like they talk about Polish politics in it, and so like Soviet era Polish politics in it and stuff. And I am sad that there's a bunch of Polish writing everywhere. I'm sad that it doesn't have a Polish language track. The English voices are okay, but I wish I could play it in Polish.
Yeah, it's interesting because they are like a Polish team, and there's just no Polish voice track. Obviously they probably made one for Poland, but
I don't know. A lot of people in Poland speak English, so they may have just done an English voice track for the whole worldwide, and then
maybe
have subtitles that are localized.
Yeah, that's possible.
Because there's a pretty small team, so I wouldn't be surprised if they just went with the cheaper option and just did one voice cast. And it's got some names, like Troy Baker's in this game, so there's some talent there for sure.
Oh,
the main character she's fine. Some of the lines are a little stilted, I think, when the way they're delivered. She's growing on me, but at first I was like, I don't know about this.
Yeah. That's interesting.
But I think it's a cool game. If you can get it to run, I recommend it. So far, I haven't hit the dangerous parts, so maybe it falls apart there.
Maybe I think I've encountered Troy Baker in the game now.
I think I know. I don't know. I thought I heard his voice, but I'm not positive.
Interesting. That just makes me think. It's unrelated to the medium itself, but I wonder if figs will continue to be a thing for indie games. Figs being French, Italian, German, Spanish. When they do that kind of translation. Yeah, eFigs if you want to include English, but like if it's based in English, then are you doing figs translation? Like I wonder if teams of this size are considering that still, or if they just don't really care anymore.
Well, I mean, you look at the people who made Blasphemous. They did English first because like that's going to hit the largest audience, and then they were successful enough so they could go back and do like a native Spanish.
Honestly, track, so. If Blooper said we're going to do a Polish language track in 6 months,
it is Blooper.
Oh, it is Blooper, not Blooper. Sorry, Blooper said we're going to do a Polish,
not the Mario fish.
I wish Bloopers made video games. So
if Blooper said that we're going to do a Polish audio track in 6 months, I would probably put it down and wait, because that's how much I wish that I could play it in Polish, because it just
more immersive.
Yeah, it's so weird to me that like I wish that I could even make the newspaper in Polish and then show me a hit read button, because there's like a read button for all the text stuff. Give it to me. I
don't know if I'd want to do that, because like I wouldn't want to have to be reading the subtitles, and like I want to be able to just focus on like the visuals.
That is one thing to say about it, is there's a lot of visuals happening because you're looking at two essentially two games. I mean, it sounds
and getting like what's Marianne's inner dialogue about what's going on and her like past.
It sounds like such a gimmick, and in some ways it is, but it really truly is basically running to, when this is where the performance hits come in, I think it's running to all the time. But I mean, I think that part of the issue is the fact that it is running to environments. Like it's kind of like,
I don't know if it's doing it all, like at least not in every area. Like
no, but
there
I mean
sections where you don't do it at all, and it's
but I mean if it's under the surface, always ready to render the second thing. I don't know how that stuff is working. What I'm saying is I don't think they're faking it. I don't think it's like, I mean it's closer to a VR game than it is to. I don't know.
So you're about to get to the point where you can, because normally the two halves are like synced up, but you can get to a point where you can have an out of body experience.
You switch
where
them.
you can go to like the other world and you can like maneuver through there. You can't separate the real world from the other world, but you can separate the other world from the real world and walk around. And then, so they are operating independently of each other.
Right.
and then you can teleport back and stuff. So
yeah, it's
that
interesting.
Stuff is all there, but
I would love to know what the tech behind the way that they're rendering and doing all that stuff is, because it's definitely interesting. But yeah, I don't know. It's a cool game. If you get it to run and have Game Pass, I think it's definitely worth your time.
Yeah,
seems neat for sure.
The story so far is interesting. So
jury's out for me on whether it's something you should buy if you don't have Game Pass.
It's
I don't know
like
yet.
$50.
Yeah,
it's a discount game. So seems good.
I'll say for what it's worth, not that I'm a huge fan of the quality of Steam reviews, but when it comes to games with technical problems, usually they get hammered really hard in Steam reviews, and it hasn't. It's still sitting at a very positive. So I am sure that it is. I'm certainly not saying that you're the only person having performance issues. There have been articles.
It might be like the Windows Store. I've seen like a few things on the Windows Store version that are saying like the performance is bad.
But it doesn't seem like it's like necessarily a rampant problem that everyone's experiencing. So
it's playable, but it's not like, oh, I need 120 FPS in this game to get sick 360 headshots.
But I'm pretty sensitive. People who know me know I'm pretty sensitive to performance dips, and it hasn't bothered me. So
all right, well, that's the medium, and now Microsoft has no other games for the rest of the year.
Well, yeah,
Halo's not making it.
I think I'm starting to wonder if Halo will ever make it.
Well, did you see from IGN, Bungie announced some new guns in Halo Infinite?
Yes.
All right. Well, I played another Game Pass game. I actually played this a couple weeks ago. I haven't finished it, but with Game of the Year, I was like, oh, I'll get into this. But then it became clear that it wasn't like so amazing that I was going to have to put it on my list. But it's a neat little thing. It's called Haven, and I got super enamored with it from the like opening cinematic. So I saw someone post it online, and I was like, holy shit, this looks incredible. And good music and like kind of a watercolory
it's very pretty
anime watercolor type intro. And the setup for the game is you are playing as a couple who is from what is the name of their thing? I don't know. They're from some intergalactic society, and they have fled the society and like become stranded on this planet is it called Haven? I don't remember. It's been a few weeks since I've played, but yeah. So you're stranded on this planet, and you're collecting berries to survive, and eventually there's like an earthquake, and that breaks up your ship, and you're like, oh shit, we gotta fix our ship, and that sends you off on like a more robust adventure where you're fighting enemies and all that kind of stuff. It's a bit of a JRPG, and it's a turn-based RPG or turn-based battle combat system, where it's kind of got like a Tale of Two Sons thing going, where you're controlling each character with like half the controller. You're not like running around, but like your battle commands. So you've got like your bottom, right, left, up, down. And so you can operate them independently and have them do different things, or you can have them like, oh, we're gonna do a blaster attack together and that'll be more effective, or we're gonna do like an impact attack and where we fly in and hit them, stuff like that. And you have to, different enemies actually require a different strategy for that, because they're going to take different damage from some things. And if you can knock all the enemies down, you can because you're not killing anything. So if you knock all the enemies down, you can pacify them and like heal them of the weird corruption stuff that's going on, which is like a kind of a neat take on the mechanic. Because this game is I think it's a very hopeful game. The whole thing is about these two characters' relationship, and like them just being a couple. And it's not like, oh, we're a new couple and we're learning about each other. They're in an established relationship, and you're kind of coming in the middle of it. So they already have like the ways they pick on each other, and they're like, their rhythm and routine. Like the guy is the chef, and he's always having to make the same thing because there's such limited food. And so one of the first jokes you get is like, oh, we're having apple dews again, like stewed apple dews with apple dew, like fried apple dews, or roasted apple dews with apple dew stuffing, stuff like that. And they're giving each other shit about it. And they have like a sexual relationship. This isn't like a horny game, but there are like references, like references to their sex life, and like you'll come in post coitus and kind kind of get like some post coitus talk. Yeah,
I know you said that
post coitus.
It's just big, like the control font. It just flirt across the screen.
Yeah, they flirt, and then the control font says coitus, and then it's just the screen is dark for 10 seconds, and then it says post coitus.
But it's a game.
Or what if it's like that? What if it's like
these are people and they have
like in the
libidos.
environment, like that Splinter Cell game?
Oh.
Yeah,
it says coitus illuminated in letters above the bed as they go to like woohoo, like in the Sims.
And then it like suddenly like it illuminates just the post dot.
Yes, exactly. It keeps it. Yeah.
It's like a no vacancy sign.
Yeah, exactly. Like a no vacancy sign. But the fact is that they actually just have a light over their bed that does that. It's not even like a title.
Yeah. No, it's just like that. This is something that like exists in their world that they specifically went out and purchased.
Cut this out of this podcast. This is a product that could sell a lot of units.
Specifically coitus and post coitus.
Yes.
The only two states.
I mean,
what about pre?
No.
Yeah.
Pre, during, post? No, okay.
I mean, for this side, it just specifically has to be like just during or post. Like,
yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fair. It's you're always post coitus unless you're mid coitus. So I guess that makes sense.
Yep.
So this game, like I think it handles the relationship pretty well. I don't know exactly how far in I am or like at what point.
Better than we would handle it.
Hey, I don't know. But it tries to make it like, hey, these are real people. They do weird shit, have their weird jokes. They're not like overly sappy. Sometimes they are, like, some couples are sappy at times and assholes to each other at others. Not assholes, but they're antagonistic at times because they can be, tease each other. But yeah, that paired with the fairly interesting combat system, it seems shallow. Like there's not going to be a ton that changes over time with the combat system. It seems like they like introduce a few new mechanics as it goes, but it seems like basically when you start, that's what you get. And then you kind of like, yeah.
You're using like sticks to select abilities.
No, so you're using just the D-pad and the face buttons.
Okay, cool. It looked like you could do kind of both at the same time.
Yes, you can.
That's cool.
And
that
so you can
cool.
charge, like, so if you do like circle and left are like the same ability, and so you charge those up, and that's then you do like a super blast attack, and they'll like charge up and they'll blast together.
That's cool.
Yeah. So you like have to think about that, or you're like, okay, I have to have one person shield because then they'll shield for both people, and then this other person can attack. And yeah, so there is strategy to the combat, but it doesn't seem like you're going to add a lot of abilities.
Do they ever do like a fusion dance equivalent?
Not where I've gotten to.
I don't think I want to fuse with my partner. I'm very happy with us being two separate entities.
There's like a lot of stuff about like you'll get like jokes about like people using up the hot water, or like the hair, or like the shower not draining because someone's hair is in the drain, stuff like that. It's a neat thing. It's on Game Pass. I'd say it's worth checking out.
Sounds neat.
So wait, so I don't know why this shook me, but you said they have a shower. For some reason, I just kind of picture this as being in like ancient times or something like that. But is it kind of like sci-fi future?
Yeah, it's sci-fi. They're part of an intergalactic civilization. They ran away. They stole a ship.
Okay.
Yeah.
They stole a ship. So they're and then you're kind of like learning some things about like
how they're criminals.
So they were not. They're like the society has like matchmakers, and they were not supposed to be together. But then they fell in love, and then they ran away. Basically, is the setup. And the girl's mother is like the CEO of like one of the biggest corporations, or like the leader of the society. So there's tension, and like, oh no, are they going to come find us type stuff. So
cool.
Yeah.
That sounds neat. I'm definitely going to have to.
It's got cooking. It's got sex. It's got turn-based combat. It's got post-coitus. Slap it on the box.
No, this sounds really interesting, and I'm definitely going to have to pick this up at some point because I think it sounds like a fun.
Yeah, I think the characters both have like neat character design, and there's like something a bit kind of like Gravity Rush meets Journey.
Yes,
about like the movement around the world.
Gravity Rush is
Gravity Rush.
You put your finger on it
Journey,
for sure.
Yeah. Like with the aesthetic, and you're gliding around the world.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Honestly, the only reason I haven't touched this is because I think the idea of a couple is really cool for a pair for the game, like for being the main characters, but generally I bristle at romance in games usually. Like outside of a few exceptions, that most times I've seen romance attempted, I'm just kind of like but it's good to hear that the writing is good, because if it is, then
it's definitely going to depend on you as a person. It works for me. Like, there are things like, oh, I can see like myself or my relationship in this moment or whatever. And then there are parts where I'm like, oh, that's not me at all, or stuff like that. And you can actually play this co-op where you and you and like a friend or a partner take like control of one character, you have control of the other. Yeah, or an enemy. And then you do the thing where like the enemy is like fuck, and then everyone's like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, I got it. Yeah, I've heard the co-op is
post-coitus enemies,
not great, but I haven't.
PCEs, yeah.
So I have not messed with the co-op, but if that's a thing, like the overworld stuff isn't amazing. Like, it's neat to fly around, and like there's like some cute enemies in the overworld, but the environments are pretty samey.
Sure.
It's just you're on like going to like these islands, and then the islands have like some grass, and then maybe like a building, and then some enemies, and this red stuff that you're like trying to clean up. And it could be more varied with that stuff, and maybe it does the further in you get. But it's it's
cool.
Got a limited scope, but what's there I've liked.
Yeah, it seems neat for what it is.
Yes, definitely. Would recommend. It's on Game Pass. I don't know what else it's on. Maybe like a PS4. Let's see. It's on PlayStation 5, Windows, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 4, and Switch. Oh, PlayStation 4 and Switch are set for February 2021, so that's coming up.
Oh, okay. Switch seems like a good place to play this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's so interesting that we are in this generation. I mean, obviously games always trickle out for the previous generation of consoles, but it's so interesting that like games are getting ports to previous generation consoles this far in,
Well, I mean, there was PS2 games coming out like 10 years after the PS3 came out.
People don't own PS5.
I mean,
like
problem,
they still sell, they need to put these games out on other things.
Copies of Just Dance.
No, I guess what I'm getting at more is I feel like it wasn't like Madden came out for Xbox, and then it wasn't like Madden came out for Xbox 360 or whatever, and then it came out on PS2 6 months later.
Shadow of Mordor was Shadow of War. Shadow of Mordor was the first one. That one came out like 6 months later, and they had to go, we took out the Nemesis system.
Yeah,
the Xbox 360.
It's just interesting. That's all.
But I mean, these consoles have been out 2 months, 3 months now, and nobody can own them. So
yeah, and they're not that different from functionally, yeah, they're not that different. I mean, unless you're developing games specifically with them in mind to use their unique features. Yeah. If you're building a multi-platform game, there's not really a reason for this game to come out on PS5 specifically.
I don't know what's up with that, other than that was just like a business deal or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just, they small team, and they're like, okay, well, we have to get the Xbox version out because it's on Game Pass, and then easier to do the PS5 version than the PS4 maybe because more power. But so that's games for this week. Now it's time for the news. And speaking of the PS5. I saw a news story today, right before we did this, from Kotaku, talking about PS5 situation in Japan. And I've talked about this on the podcast before. There are not many PS5s in Japan at all. And I've become even more annoyed recently because they insist on doing in-store sales for the PS5 in places like Tokyo and Osaka, where there is a state of emergency because of COVID-19. They're asking people to come into the store. A lot of them are saying, hey, you need to have like a store credit card, or like there are restrictions on these things, like, to limit the number of people coming in, but it's still stupid. They shouldn't be doing this. And the Akihabara Yodobashi camera had something like 300 PS5s to sell today, or yesterday, recently. And they were saying no restrictions. Anyone can come. And we'll give out tickets. And people, it was like Black Friday in there. Like people were rushing, like pushing, like employees, cash registers. So much so that they canceled the sales. They were like, we're not doing this. Jesus. Get out of here. Like, what are...
This is such a... How... I don't know. How is it that Sony doesn't see this stuff and go like... We gotta solve this problem.
They get their money anyway, I guess.
No, I know, but
it looks bad for them.
Yes.
And like I was seeing like attach rate for software is less than 1 per console because of scalpers. Like there are so many just held up in like resellers that they're
sitting in people's garages.
Yeah, they're not moving software as much because they're not selling consoles. This, it's not a Breath of the Wild situation where people are buying Switch copies of the game when they can't get a Switch because it's like, oh, well, I'm going to get it anyway. And so they have like 110% attach rate or whatever.
It's going to be interesting to see as the year goes on what happens there. Because, I mean, like, I can't think of any must-play PS5 exclusive games. Like Miles is very good, but I think you could probably play it on PS4 and be okay.
I refuse.
I know you do. I respect that, but yeah, I think you don't. Astro's very cool. It's the sort of thing that's like when you get a PS5, I wouldn't lose sleep over not being able to play Astro.
Right. It's one of those things where if you have a PS5, then you should play it because it comes bundled. But it's like not something that you necessarily need to buy a PS5 for.
No, I want to go inside a PS1.
PS2
it should not be oversold. It's a very cool.
It's very cool, and I think it is a really good showcase of the DualSense controller, which is very cool, but it's also like it's a showcase of that.
But it's also not a game you can buy, right? Like, so I guess more what I'm getting at is like if they haven't solved this problem by the time something like a God of War comes out, it's going to be very interesting because Ratchet's only on PS5. I think that's a good example. Is it going to hurt sales of Ratchet because they can't get PS5s into people's homes and because of this like bad scalper issue? Because like I'm very excited to play Ratchet, but it's frustrating to know that like maybe that game will tank because
it's bad for the discourse.
Yeah, and it's bad for the industry. And it's bad for Sony. That's why I mean they may get their money either way, but I feel like they should be concerned about this.
They get their console money, but they're not getting software money.
Right, which is where they're supposed to be making most of their money.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder. I guess I worry that the ramifications for that could be, well, the next Ratchet game after this, or whatever, the next Naughty Dog game after this, maybe they can't scope it with the same kind of budget if they're not selling units of software.
I wonder. I mean, they do stuff like the PlayStation Hits, and like I feel like these games tend to have a tail. For the first, for the first 2 years, but especially because of COVID, like the PS5 games that are out are going to be the PS5 games that are out. Yeah. And so, Ratchet, Spider-Man, Demon Souls, like they're going to do reasonably well. People who own these consoles are going to own those games mostly.
I just wonder if I'm sure they will solve the supply issues this year. I have a confidence that that'll happen, but if it doesn't, it almost becomes a VR like problem of like, what's the point of me as a non first party developer pouring resources into making a game for this hardware when there's not enough of an install base to warrant that, and then it also fucks over people like Allison and I who have PS5s, because then we're not getting cool original games.
Right. It's like it's a real problem for everybody involved. So it's like they really have to figure this out, because I mean,
if I were Sony, it's way more complicated than this, and this is not realistic. If I were Sony, I'd be like, no more game systems for you retailers. You're coming to us.
I mean, they are doing like some
they do direct
sales themselves, sales themselves, but no, that generally I think directs, that's Nintendo thing.
Generally, also to be clear, I think that's not good. I think retailers are important, and like that's good, but
like a true retailer.
Don't get me started. In the broken system that we exist in, retailers are important and need to exist, but also given how much they've just screwed this up, specifically in Japan, if I were Sony, I would be looking at pulling the plug on some of these retailers.
It's an irresponsible thing what they're doing with the sales, because like all the sales are basically in Tokyo, like with like in-store stuff is just like unconscionable. I can't believe
it is extremely irresponsible.
The government not stepping in saying, hey, you're not a necessary retailer or essential.
That's kind of what I'm getting. I mean, if I put on my evil marketing hat, I go with Sony, like, well, we can justify this by saying it's unhealthy and unsafe. So pull it, and we'll do direct sales, and then we can manage the supply chain and the inventory flow a little more directly also.
Yeah, it's like I've just gotten to the point like I don't even want to try and go into a store to buy it. No,
it's not worth it. It's not working COVID to get a PS5.
and like the Kyoto.
Yeah, no. As somebody that
get them, so
as somebody that owns a PS5 and likes my PS5 a lot, it is not worth COVID.
But my PC can't play the medium.
Your PS5 can't either.
Yeah. So very specifically, it cannot.
Well, that's my PlayStation 5 update.
I mean, that's legit. Hopefully you'll get it sometime.
Two more lotteries coming. Results this week. We'll see. Or was it one this week, one beginning of next week, or something? I don't know.
Well, I'll say,
Andre.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go for it, Pat.
I was gonna say I am glad I procrastinated on playing Dark Souls until I was able to play it on PS5, because there's like no load times when you die.
Yeah,
that sounds awesome.
Yeah,
no load times for anything. Which
Dark Souls doesn't look any better on PS5 than it does on PS4 Pro, but the load times are already pretty good. Not Demon Souls. Demon Souls as well, but I'm playing Dark Souls right now, and the remaster for the PS4, and it loads real fast. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. What I was going to say, Andre, if you were in the United States or North America in general, there's a certain retailer you could probably go to and they might have a PS5.
What a segue.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of lotteries.
Oh God, this is the game. I joked about this in our group chat before. This is probably the game I played the most this week, was watching this unfold, which
obvious up front, we're not a broke, don't take any financial advice from us.
We're not giving advice. Yeah, there's no financial advice.
Just don't take any of this conversation that's about to take place as financial advice.
If you take financial advice from this conversation, if you take any financial advice from this conversation, I mean, it's like, that's your, you did it yourself. But
here's my financial advice: don't go to a store to buy a PS5
and get COVID.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
Just fucking wait.
Well, although don't take any medical advice from us either. Listen to your doctor. Follow your local health guidelines.
Yeah. If they say go to a store and get COVID, listen to your doctor.
I'm going to say with authority, do not go to a store and get COVID.
Honestly,
but what if your doctor says to, Andre?
What if the only place to avoid getting COVID is at the store?
Oh no.
That sounds like a very terrible dystopian movie where it's like the only place that the disease doesn't get you is in the GameStop, because we've been skirting around the topic, but GameStop.
All right. GameStop back in the news this time. It's not something they did.
Yeah.
In fact, they've been. Yeah,
we
mentioned this last week because I was like, oh, hey, did y'all hear about all the millionaires from the GameStop stock? There's a lot more of them now, and the price is way higher.
The whole thing has blown up, and there have been times where I've looked at specific charts of GameStop stock just because it's fascinating to see it go from spike it in amazingly high. And
this is kind of like surpassed like the video game aspect of it, because it's not like everyone suddenly had massive faith in GameStop or they did something right. It was the stock market and hedge funds trying to screw GameStop.
Right. Well, they're betting that GameStop would fail. Essentially,
they were basically being vultures circling the body.
Things we have seen before with like things like Toys R Us, where these private equity firms or hedge funds or whatever come in and take debt or bet against the company, and that ends up either sinking them or making them do worse and stuff like that.
Right. Well, that's like, I mean, and this is like been an education for a whole lot of people. I mean, myself included, in like the concept of short selling and like I've learned so much about the stock market that I had no idea.
That has been fascinating.
Other than that, it's complete nonsense and it's fake and nothing is real. You can do anything you want.
It has been fascinating. Like, I've been doing like investing stuff for years and years and years, but like whatever. That's neither here nor there. It's been really fascinating just seeing everyone I know suddenly just taking such a deep interest in it and just being like learning about all this stuff at the same time, because it's just like we said, it's beyond the sphere of gaming. It's reached like headline news, it's mainstream TV status, because
politics it's too, political figures are talking about it.
Billions of dollars on the line.
Yeah.
Well, not even just on the line, it's already been affected.
Like lost.
Like
Billions of dollars like lost and gained from different people and places, and
not to over exaggerate, but like it has the potential of being like one of the biggest financial pieces of news potentially ever, because of just how much it is fucked with the market.
At least of like the century.
To the point where people are genuinely thinking about like, hey, maybe we should be regulating some of these things. I mean, hopefully that'll come with this, but like,
but it's the question of what are they going to regulate?
Right. I mean,
like, is Warren G going to be involved?
Exactly.
Right, but it's like it is like genuinely affecting like the stock market beyond just GameStop stock too. So it's like it's genuinely affecting a lot of people, and a lot of people are talking about it, and it has very little to do with actual GameStop. Like, this isn't really doing all that much to them or because of them.
They are being hilariously quiet.
Everybody's
they I mean, honestly, almost like knowingly. So it's funny.
They should be very quiet. They should.
That's kind of smart. But it's like it has very little to do with GameStop. Like actually, it's also like very funny seeing every single person talk about GameStop for the first time since like 2003 or something.
Was surprising to me was that GameStop is like not like wasn't in danger of like going bankrupt. They have like, they closed their stores because they underperform or whatever, which it sucks, but
kind of moved to e-commerce.
Yeah, and they have like, they have always paid off their debts. They aren't in like imminent danger. So that was one thing that I was surprised to learn from all of this. But part of like why I think it's so funny that they're being so quiet right now is because when you compare it to something like AMC, which has also seen a surge, not to the extent that GameStop has, but AMC has also seen a lot of activity in like the recent weeks and days. But AMC is out there like, oh yeah, no, we're out here. We just paid off a bunch of debt. We're gonna go raise a bunch more money. We're gonna sell more stock.
I think it's very specifically.
They're streaming on Twitch, and the chat is going wild, and the person streaming just has to pretend nothing is happening.
Yeah, no, and I don't know how much it actually affected GameStop as its business, but it very specifically got rid of like $600 million of debt from AMC, which as somebody where I go to, in better times, I go to my local AMC theater multiple times a month and I pay for their subscription. I'm like, thank God, because I like the movies, but I mean, it's wild how this is like all turned out. Yeah. And to the point where I think we were all like in our chat, like specifically going like, man, when the market opens, like what's going to happen? It's like, all these people are starting to care about like stuff about like when the market opens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, also like part of it is bizarre. It's like what, because like people's hedge funds and like people's like livelihoods and like the way that the stock market is behaving is not good. Like between the apps and like the brokers and stuff.
Yeah.
So politicians are like bipartisan, like what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
So it's important to be aware of what's happening.
Right. And like I had previously, like last year, put a little bit of money into Robinhood because I was just like, oh, I should probably learn what stocks are as an adult who, has to deal with money and would like to eventually retire one day. But it's like, but then it's like, oh, now I'm like cashing out of my Robinhood account because this is like, I don't want to deal with any of that anymore. And it's like, it's been really weird to figure out.
I think the thing that I found most fascinating are kind of the ancillary stories that have come out of it. Things like people suddenly making lots of money and then paying off vet bills, paying off hospital bills. There was a story this morning about someone in Texas who went to a GameStop with the money they had made, bought a whole bunch of Switches and donated them to a children's hospital. Like, people are actually doing good things with this, which I think is fascinating. And again, especially that is not, we are not advising you jump in on this.
No, do not.
Now is probably the worst time to jump into GameStop stock.
But watching those stories has been great.
Know ahead of time if you hear names of like the Reddit communities involved in this stuff and go looking. They're toxic.
They're awful.
Specifically avoid those and like
really, really gross.
And like people were wondering like they were getting kind of like these communities were getting flagged places for like hate speech and stuff, and people are like, oh, is this people trying to censor this? It's like, well, it is just as likely that it is just as the timing is bad, but it is just as likely that they are using hate.
Like I'm sure that the reason that their Discord server got hit, like the actual reason, is because Discord was like, oh, we don't want to get investigated by the SEC, but
also
there was certainly enough there,
to
say why they did it,
just cause.
Like millions of people like joining these like communities, like, you know, they have like exploded because of this, or, you know, this community. So like I wouldn't be surprised if like some people joined the Discord and were like, oh no, this is filled with terrible people, and like started reporting things. I don't know how that works with Discord, but you know, it's hard to say because there was a lot of there was some shit going down that's been questionable. So.
I think there's a lot of stuff.
It always has been.
Yeah, that's the stock market. It's all made up. It doesn't matter.
Right. And I mean, I think seeing how this all plays out is going to be really interesting. And it's hard to know if this is going to be like net positive or net negative, because I mean, I know that a lot of people, I mean, myself included, are like, yeah, screw hedge funds. But at the same time, like, then I found out that a lot of like retirement funds invest in hedge funds. So it's like, ooh, this could be a little bit, not great.
It's tough because and that's part of the reason that those things are so effective is because it's like, well, since so many retirement, we can't ever change the system because it will hurt some people. And so it's
exactly.
Like,
it's a weird thing because it's like, as somebody that has now like a pension, legitimate, but also like $120 in my pension because I just started it. But it's like, it's hard because it's like I get feeling connected to that, but also it's like, I don't know, it's very complicated. And again, don't take financial advice from us because it is so complicated. But it's been wild to just see like GameStop everywhere.
Yeah,
GameStop being the event horizon of the revolution.
It's, you know, Nintendo started this with the stock market last year.
Oh yeah. That's not just last year.
No, but you know,
but I mean,
20 years ago, right?
But this is like, you know, last year was the time everyone's like, well, I'm stuck at home. I guess I'm going to get way into turnip stocks.
Sure.
And now,
there's all those websites.
Into real stuff.
Everybody running into like other islands, going like, my stock market is good.
Some of y'all didn't homeschool in the GameCube era, and it shows.
Absolutely not.
I was deep in the turnip market because all I had to do was stay home. Long time ago.
Well, you should have seen this coming then, Pat. You should have been.
Yeah, clearly.
You should be on Mars.
Yeah. I don't want to go anywhere with Elon Musk. Thank you.
Oh God, yeah.
What? So is Elon Musk? Is he basically Tom Nook in this scenario?
Tom Nook is so
lovable.
much better. Elon Musk is so much worse than Tom Nook.
I would much rather hang out with Tom Nook than Elon Musk.
No comment. Oh God, but yeah,
Elon Musk is more like Wario.
I am.
We're comparing him to
I mean, Mario is more lovable than Elon.
Oh my God!
Wario loves money. Wario loves money.
At least Wario's funny though.
Is he?
When he dies.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I'm gonna back slowly away from that one.
not in the Elon Musk sense.
Okay, yeah.
Just when Wario fucking dies, it's funny.
That's true.
I lost it. I had a segue, I thought, but now it's
American cheese.
Good stuff.
It's good. Yeah.
I don't like it. Tastes like plastic.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Feels like plastic. Well, speaking of messes, Cyberpunk 2077 added their modding tools, and immediately
it's back in the news.
So I don't want to
like, I want to have sex with Keanu Reeves.
Every time I see Cyberpunk 2077 in the news, I'm just like, oh shit, here we go again. But I do think it's important to say if CD Project Red thought that by creating a 3D model of Keanu Reeves, people were already not making him fuck, they're out of their minds.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's like, how could you not see that coming?
Well, there's one very simple solution to all of this. What you do is you have a mod where you go into a room with Keanu Reeves, it goes dark, and then you have a sign that lights up that says post coitus.
I mean, I'm just saying, Death Stranding is out. If
Neon,
you don't think
yeah.
that
We need to learn how
somewhere
to mod so that we can put this into games.
someone somewhere has already made some footage of, you know,
Can we get the
Conan
scene?
O'Brien's and your Keanu Reeveses and your
Can we-
Junji Ito's all.
Can we replace the model of Guillermo del Toro in Death Stranding with Keanu Reeves so we can get a shower scene where Norman Reedus is naked in the shower with Guillermo del Toro, like real close up in his face, just replace it with Keanu Reeves.
And also because of the games, because of the way.
Or Metal Gear Solid 5.
Because of the way game models work,
shower.
Keanu Reeves is probably like at least 2 feet taller or shorter than every Death Stranding character if you just directly imported the model.
But I want to scale him down.
So bad.
I want to scale him way down and put him in the BB container.
Oh, there you go. BB Keanu Reeves.
BB Reeves.
Same idea. Yakuza 6 Song of Life and replace the baby with Keanu
With the
Reeves.
rugby. Baby rugby with Keanu Reeves. That'd be so good.
Yeah, that'd be.
Just imagine though, if there's like little BB Keanu Reeves can't speak but can communicate with Norman Reedus, and Norman Reedus like puts his hand up on the glass, and it's just like, you're amazing.
See Keanu Reeves' ass when he
Or you're
does the little
breathtaking, I
like
guess
go
is
down
what
the
it is.
throat
You're
thing or
breathtaking.
whatever.
God,
And
I
every
forgot about
time,
that.
like, you know how baby cries, maybe it's just Keanu going like, whoa, or like, I'm in the Matrix or whatever. Like, I don't know.
that would be
See the
that would be his
code.
reaction to the BTs in every scenario.
Whoa.
Because he knows that even if Norman Reedus dies and he like breaks out of the BB soup, he's gonna just make it because he's gonna like find a gun on somebody, and even though when people die they blow up.
That shit.
Yes, and he'll find a way to creatively not kill them. He'll just kneecap every BT.
Like the Terminator in Terminator 2. Got
Yeah.
it.
Now in Fortnite.
So, CD Projekt Red respectfully asked people to not make Keanu Reeves.
I don't think
their modding tools.
I don't think they respectfully asked. I think they banned it.
Yeah, but I mean, people are going to mod.
There's nothing they
I think
can do
it's
about
like
it.
through the official tools, but like people are going to mod other ways, and like
It's called Source Filmmaker.
Anyways,
Yeah. Apparently, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is going
man.
to feature 300 playable characters,
So excited for this game.
including the
me
greatest
too.
character to ever be in a Star Wars film, Babu Frick.
But is Salacious Crumb playable? That's what I want to know.
I mean,
'Cause I feel like-
oh my God, please.
I feel like
why not?
with the so that's the thing with the way that the Star
bad guy,
Wars
but-
the way that the Lego games work, typically there's like there'll be 300 playable characters. There's probably like 30 different kinds of characters, and then there's like 10 of each of those or whatever.
Like 100 Jedi.
That's what I'm saying is like all the Jedi will likely play basically the same. And I'm not condemning it, but what I'm saying is if there's a Babu Frick character, that would imply that they have a type of character that's like little alien
kind of,
monster.
yeah.
So Salacious Crumb should be playable.
Do you, okay, Pat. Do
Yes.
you think that there is a separate button to make him laugh?
Probably. Yes.
It's all he does.
He
Yes.
just walks around and goes, ah, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh God, like game of the year.
Allison, you're almost assuredly going to be able to play as BB-8. There's no way that
almost
that's not in there.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because you can play as R2 in the previous games.
I think you could play as BB in Force Awakens Lego.
Of course.
Oh, that's right,
I
they
would
did
be
make that.
shocked if you couldn't do that.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you could.
I had to look up who Salacious Crumb was. Now I know exactly what
yeah,
you're talking about.
yeah.
Totally. The like gestury thing from Jabba's palace.
I
Yeah.
wonder if. Oh no, never mind.
Okay.
I think Salacious Crumb is dead in canon at this point.
That's never stopped it. That's not going to stop a Lego game.
No, it won't stop the Lego game. I was going to say something else, not related to the Lego game. I'm just excited that they are talking about this game because it had been a long time and they made it sound so cool, like the coolest Lego game ever last year. And then it just kind of quietly faded a little bit, I'm sure, because COVID caused some delays and stuff. And
I mean, I'd rather just head down and work on it.
Yeah, of course. I just wanted to make sure it's still coming because they still say spring this year also.
Yeah, it seems really cool.
Yeah, it's every time I talk about it with people, they're like, well, I don't really like Lego games because you're just like top down running around. But then when I point out that actually supposedly this one is like a third person behind the back action RPG almost, and not more like a Horizon or Assassin's Creed from what it sounds like. That's really exciting.
It is still so Traveler's excited Tales, for this video game.
Yeah, it is.
It is still Traveler's Tales? Cool. Yeah, because like they're a great studio, honestly. So
I'm excited. I think that I'm going to have to buy a second PS5 controller because I'm sure that my partner and I would love to play this game, and that'll be a good place to play it. So.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, next up on our news list, Hitman 3 has apparently recouped their development costs in a week.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which that's good for them. They're gonna they've said they're working on more content. They have said no new levels, so no like bank or whatever the other one was, the island thing. Was that the other level?
Haven Island.
But they are going to do like some Patient Zero type stuff, or like where they modify remixes. Remixes of like sounds like levels from all of the games. Maybe
that's cool. It's unfortunate that they're not doing more levels. I think I would have liked to have gotten at least one more. Especially because the Hitman 3 is very good. Having finished it, it's very thin content-wise compared to the prior two.
Like very even like mission stories, there are much fewer compared to the other games.
Things like that. Berlin level is very cool. I'm not sure how much I want to play it over and over and over again compared to stuff like Paris and Sapienza.
So when you realize how many people there actually are in that level, it becomes more interesting. But there is I've kind of figured out what I want to do. But there, like that first time you go through, it's hard to tell how much there really is there.
I guess overall the environments on their own feel less replayable to me than the previous two entries, and so I think it's disappointing that this is the one that's not going to get more content.
I am going back
more levels.
I just finished going through the first set of levels, like Hitman 1 in Hitman 3, replaying, and those are some good levels.
They're really good. Yeah. I'm still annoyed I don't have access to Hitman 2, so I'm just kind of until I get like my free access to Hitman 2.
It is very annoying that stuff. I almost bought like the access pass today because I just want it, but I'm not paying $20 for games I already own.
It's also why
I'm going to get for free.
When I hear that they recoup their dev costs in 1 week, I'm like, that's cool. I like IO genuinely. I really am happy for them, but also with bond money coming down the pipe and the like bullshit we all had to go through on PC to get over to the Epic Store, I'm kind of like, wow, I guess it was really worth it to do the Epic thing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Give me my in terms of 2 levels.
in terms of like them adding new levels and stuff, they've been pretty explicit about this being the end, like the last game.
The end of the trilogy.
Like the end of the world of Assassination. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I just don't think the story is good enough to use that as a real justification to not stick a couple more levels in there. It's fine. I mean, it's not terrible, but the ending is kind of
cool. Maybe the success changes that plan, but it sounds like they're probably focused on James Bond from now, and they'll have a small team working on like doing new stuff with the existing stuff.
I hope that the James Bond game falls into a similar structure to Hitman with like levels that are replayable. Not necessarily the same, and I don't think they should just make James Bond a Hitman game.
Definitely not.
But I think
you have to have a big post-coitus sign in there somewhere.
It's a real bummer the idea of like, and there's not going to be another game like Hitman probably for 5 to 10 years is a real bummer. Especially when they're not making more levels for this one. So
they're kind of the only ones doing it. So
yeah, nobody else makes games like this. I mean,
except for that one Call of Duty level.
Well, Deathloop's coming out this year. Just
that's
fingers
true.
crossed.
That's true. Yeah,
That's true. That is true. It's
But
silly.
I hope in 3-4 years we get like a Hitman reboot and like here's the new Hitman and like,
maybe
and like it's different. It's not the exact same thing we've done here, and like I don't need a story. Just give me like
I don't either.
Take that time that you're taking making the story and just go, what is more interesting, goofy ways we can, more places and like. Because I'm writing a review for Hitman, and we don't need to get super deep into it. But one of the things that I didn't touch on last week was they missed out on some of the stuff that was really great and like funny about the writing and like the disguises of the first two games, which was like the Helmut Kruger thing is like that was like a recurring thing. It was like Agent 47 looks exactly like Helmut Kruger, so he's like a perfect match for that, like, for that guy. And so when you disguise yourself as him, everyone's like, oh yeah, this is Helmut Kruger. And then there's like the thing in the second game with the tattoo artist. He's like bald and like you kind of look like him, but then you don't have any tattoos. But this guy is like world famous and he has the one tattoo on the back of his head. But you go into the thing and they're like, I thought you would have more tattoos. Like they acknowledge like this is funny. Something's weird here.
Yeah.
And then in this one, there's a couple times where you're like someone will be talking to someone and like setting up a thing, and then like you go and you like take them out and you take their clothes, and then you go and like, okay, I go meet with this person 30 seconds later, a minute later, and they don't say anything about it.
Or
completely like I have no hair. The person you just spoke to had a full head of hair.
Like the first like in the first level, the Dubai level, you get that with the assassin dude, right?
Yeah,
like the world class. He's talking to like some guards or whatever. Then you choke him out and then take his disguise and you go back and talk to the same guards. And they're just like, oh, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, and the same lady who is supposed to be like, guiding you up and like talking to you.
It happens at the vineyard too, where you take on like you play as like one of the main guys, like fixers, that like you don't really look like him, and clearly everybody.
Is it the lawyer? Is that what you're talking about?
No.
Okay, because the lawyer at least guy. Is bald. Okay.
and the guy sees you and is like, oh, hi, Mr. Black, and it's like he looks like, and they don't look the same.
Is it like? I don't know if that was like a conscious choice, like we're not going to acknowledge any of this and we're just going to go full ridiculous, but I found myself disappointed by that stuff to like not even like a wink and a nod that it's like getting ridiculous. Yeah. We just don't care about that anymore is how I
think it's kind of funny how just they make it so funny. Absurd. They're just like,
but
it's so dumb.
I think part of the problem, and we can move on after this, but part of the problem is that my biggest issue with Hitman 3 is that like that vineyard level, for example, is designed around the idea of a character that being there who is in the story, and so they don't have the freedom to just make it whatever. They're kind of trying to inject narrative into the level, which naturally limits the way that the mission stories can play out and the way that different parts of that can work, because they need for you to be able to stand next to that character in a pretty wide range of costumes to be able to hear what they're saying and like be around them. And so it's kind of annoying. And I think that's part of why it's probably my least favorite of the three, but also it's still really good because Hitman's really good. So I'm not saying it's like a major disappointment or anything.
Yeah. It just, there are some interesting choices they made, and they had definitely like a tumultuous time, like from Hitman 1 to Hitman 2 and then to Hitman 3, which like the last year. And
and I would rather they try stuff like this to keep it fresh than just make levels forever with no real innovation.
Like the mechanical stuff they did was like really smart and interesting. It feels like they did that at the expense of like a broader experience, I guess.
And it seems like
more stuff.
It seems like some of the escalations in Hitman 3 are really good, so I haven't dug into those yet.
They are. One of them kind of is annoying because there's like the third level is a time limit thing, and that's never great because it's like very tight timing. But like I've
beat the first level in 8 seconds, which is, I believe, now the world record.
You can do that. I think Silent Assassin record for the first level is 20 seconds.
17.
17 now. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
so cool.
Very, very silly. But yeah, you cannot do that with this escalation that's on the China one, the Ching. Yeah. So you can't do that with that level, but it's very tight timing. But yeah. Our last news story for the week. We got a lawsuit, people.
We do? What did we do?
No, not us. Steam has received a lawsuit basically saying their requirement that developers give them the best terms that they have with other like best price, basically. There's a term for it, but basically you can't price your game lower on another service like as a normal price and have your price on Steam be higher. So you can't be like $50 on the Epic Game Store and $60 on Steam. Steam won't let you do that. And so basically the lawsuit is saying that is like anti-competitive and they can't, like, that it's bad for consumers.
This person whoever filed this lawsuit should look into other retail industries because this is like, this is the thing that happens across retail. Yeah. It's not some weird insidious thing that Valve in particular does.
They have cited. They have also like filed against like developers like Devolver, and
it's ridiculous in my opinion.
The Devolver statement was very good because it was all of the entire Devolver team is enrolled in law school, and we cannot comment until we have finished at least the first semester.
It's very good.
That's a good comment.
They put Steph Tinsley's name on that statement.
That's really funny. I don't know. Like
let me pull up the article.
I work in online retail for a completely different industry, and we talk all the time about how like, this website or whatever is selling below the price that they should be selling at, and then you talk to the manufacturer and get them to like make them change the price or say they won't send them anymore. Like it happens in every retail industry. So maybe Valve has more aggressive wording in their actual contracts, but it's agreed pricing is standard.
Most favored nations provision in the Steam distribution agreement. But hinders innovation and suppresses output as it acts as an additional barrier to entry by potential rival platforms, and as higher prices lead to less sale of PC games. But
whatever.
This PC Gamer article goes on to say, like, Hitman 2 or Hitman 3 is a Epic Game Store exclusive. It's still $60.
Right.
Yeah. That seems pretty.
Also,
baseless.
I feel like the concept of like the level of like they're talking, a lot of what they're talking about is like the dominance in the PC market, and I feel like with Epic it's slowly becoming less and less just Steam.
And
PC. So it's like
you can compete. I mean, you have to compete on things other than price anyway, because it's just not how the industry really works. Like,
I mean, look at places like itch.io. Like, you can find games for free or like $1 there because they're smaller in scale, and that is PC. But Steam, if we're talking purely about AAA games, those are just kind of by default $60 and have been for a long time. Like, that's just kind of the tacit agreement that the industry has come to at this point. So I don't know.
I want to see their lawsuit against the PlayStation Store for being the only PlayStation platform store that sells games that like.
That's what I mean. That was kind of the thing that came up with the Epic and Apple stuff, was like, Epic suing Apple and Google, but Microsoft and Sony were, exempt from that, even though it's, walled garden. So
yeah, but I guess that's what I'm saying is that they all kind of do it, and technically,
exactly.
technically, it's true that the most friendly thing, if we lived in my utopia, the most friendly thing is that we would have no closed platforms. Every platform would be open for development and distribution, and like you wouldn't have to buy anything because everyone would have everything they needed, and everyone could make really fucking awesome games without needing to even worry about money. It would be great. But in the world, in the reality we live in, this stuff is just the way it works.
This is the year we get you into Linux, so we can introduce you to apt-get.
2021 is
Can I play the medium on Linux? No.
Maybe not on Game Pass, but through Steam you probably could. You gotta get like what is it, Wine? Yeah, it's gotta. We
Wine
can
is
do
not
this.
an emulator.
But doesn't that gets you the games? Isn't that how you play the games in Linux? I don't know.
Play.
No, that's
I watched some YouTube videos.
Wine is an acronym that stands for Wine is not an emulator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, this is just how the business of game.
Wait, so it's an acronym within an acronym, because if it's wine and then there's wine, it's wine all the way down.
Yeah, there's lots of those in software development. It's very stupid, like PHP.
PHP hates PHP.
PHP stands for PHP Hypertext Processor.
In an industry,
anyways,
where redundancy is really bad. There's certainly
it's all very deliberate.
All this, we need to refactor programming.
Yep.
Okay.
From the top down. We're gonna every programming language. We're deleting all of it.
Yep.
Yes.
You look baffled.
You look very distressed.
I'm looking at my Audacity and I'm looking at the timeline.
I know. It's almost like we didn't do a 3-hour podcast.
We got another hour. What are we doing?
Okay, so Yeast Origins.
Okay. Well, this is gonna call this episode.
So, like a solid medium cheddar, anytime you can put that on anything. Like, just a nice slice of that. Maybe even some Swiss.
Yeah.
Like you can put some Swiss on anything.
I'm not down
personally. I'm an extra sharp guy.
You are an extra sharp guy, Pat. We know.
Thank you. Swiss is good with certain things.
Yeah, totally.
And in complement to other cheeses, if you do like Swiss and provolone, it's great.
I mean, and also like I say this, I'm not saying like that. American cheese is the best cheese. It's like by far not the best cheese. No. It is just like it has its uses.
I'd even be willing to say that it is the no, maybe not. It's one of the least good cheeses. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely, but it's still good because it's cheese.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of not cheese. It's like a cultured dairy product. But yeah.
It's cheese-like.
Yes. And sometimes, like when I want a burger, I want to just have some American cheese on it because of the way it melts and stuff.
Because it melts really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyways.
Extra sharp white cheddar, I think, is my post cheeses. The best. Post cheeses. Post cheeses is called nap time.
I think that's going to be the next Kanye album.
Nap time?
Post Jesus.
Did you see I will never make a diss album. What? I think it's an old tweet. Kanye once tweeted, "I will never make a diss album," and somebody retweeted and said, "I didn't realize Kanye was Italian."
Oh my god, I saw that, and it's still funny.
That's super funny.
All right.
Anyways.
Happy New Year. 3 weeks, a month in. Okay, for 12th down.
Ooh.
Wow. Where does time go?
Not into this podcast this week.
To the stock market.
Apparently. Yeah, for sure.
You can't trade on a weekend.
It's not going to stop him from trying. Well, that's been episode 157 of the Gaming Fix podcast on January 30th, 2021. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Fix Podcasts or on Twitch at twitch.tv/gamingfix. Or you can head over to podchaser.com/gamingfix, leave us a review and help us improve as a podcast. Or go over to fix.space. I've got a review of Yakuza Like a Dragon up. And I'm going to have a review of Hitman 3 coming up here pretty soon in the next day or two, hopefully. I mostly just got to edit and get a few more screenshots maybe. We have Comic Fix coming up this week. Sam and Erica are talking about WandaVision.
Yay!
Junji Ito. Yeah. WandaVision's real good.
It is.
I haven't watched episode 4.
It's good.
Episode 4 is good.
One yet,
oh yeah.
Okay, because episode 3, it's starting to lose me, to be honest.
It's good.
Cool. Good to know.
Should I watch
2 episodes?
I don't know. How do you feel?
We'll wait to weigh on if you should watch it.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll wait till the
it's
end.
hard
I'll wait till
to
the
know.
end.
At the end of episode 3, I was like, okay, I know what the rest of the show is now, and I'm no longer interested. So I'm hoping episode 4 is maybe throws a wrench into the.
I saw people after the first 2 episodes came out were like, I don't get it. What is this show even supposed to be? I'm like, it's 2 episodes.
Yeah, and also it's you can also see, it's there's more to it than.
I'm pretty sure that Sam inadvertently outlined the entire plot of the whole show on the first episode of Comic Book Fix when he speculated about what the show was going to be. I think he was right. So
it is a.
I wouldn't doubt that.
It is a thing that has happened in the comics. It's probably not happening the exact same way, but
is it based on the comic we read for the first year?
Nope.
No.
It has almost nothing to do with that. People thought it was going to be that, but it is nothing like that.
Good to know.
Tom King himself even was like, "Wow, they took my idea for their show," and no, they did not.
Yeah. I feel like I felt like it was pretty clear what it was going to be, but the way they have gone with it was not they kind of moved quicker than I expecting, but that's probably a good thing. I'm interested to see where they take it from here. But
Yeah.
Gonna have a bagel and probably watch it as soon as we're done here.
Okay.
Oh, sounds good.
I'm trying to see
Montreal
what else they're
style?
talking about, but so yeah, that's Comic Book Fix. You can pull that up in your podcast platform of choice and listen along to that, or on Fix.space. You can find it there, I believe, right, Alex? Is that on there? Okay, good. You can find me, Andre Cole, on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W. Allison, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY.
And Pat?
You can find me at PJC Plays.
And Alex, where can people find you?
We had an episode of Coding Fix that came out last week, so there, I guess.
All about QA.
All about QA.
All right.
Next one is going to be really dense. Next episode, I should say, of Coding Fix. It's going to be really dense.
Okay.
Way to sell it.
No, as in it's going to be a lot of information.
I'm sure. We just got into it with all that talk about. I hope it's just an episode of breaking down.
Burning things to the ground.
No, breaking down
Acronyms.
Acronyms within acronyms in coding.
Yeah, look, just do a Google for recursive acronyms in coding. There's a lot of really stupid ones.
I'd rather listen to an episode of Coding Fix about it.
Yeah, fair.
That's going to do it. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Stay wet, gamers.
God. Wow, it's been a long time.
I always forget. I didn't forget today. It's not even on the list.
Damn.
Bye, guys.
I remembered.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Oh, hi, stream. Now it is just you and I, friend. I hope that you're having a lovely Saturday or Sunday, depending where you are in the world. But I'm just looking at this list of other acronyms. There's some really stupid ones. I didn't know that Visa, the credit card, is also a recursive acronym. It stands for Visa International Service Association. That's funny. Looking at some other ones here. Farm, I don't know that one, but Farm Animal Rights Movement. Here, how about, well, we're not recording. Let me pull this over here for you. Oh, goodness. Oh, God. Yeah, there we go. Hopefully that comes through. I can zoom it in a little bit so we can actually look at some of these. There's some very dumb ones here. I love it. ATI Technologies Incorporated. Bird Internet Routing Daemon. Oh, I didn't know that curl was. Curl URL request library. That's funny. GNU. GNU's not Unix. I like that one a lot. That's funny. Oh, I forgot about Lame. Oh man, how could I forget about Lame? Lame is so good. Sorry, was just typing to our group chat. Pip installs packages. That's a good one. Yeah. Xampp. I forgot about Xampp. YAML ain't a markup language. Yep. Good. All right. That's it. We're saying goodbye to this stream. All right. Goodbye, friends. Have a good weekend. And this episode will be up in, I don't know,